Alright folks and fellow radio people, I'm going to do a little video for you and show you something that's pretty cool. So what you see here is a 12 volt battery, oh what didn't you know that, a cheap Chinese video and audio transmitter. That is my little jumper because they come with theirs, and you know the borons give you the RCA or monotype plug. This is what they give you when they should be inputs to that. And that right there is my camera. It's just a cheap indoor day, supposedly night vision camera. Not too well night vision, but anyways, it does both, and it's sending audio. Just my test dummy. So what this conglomeration of stuff here is a couple of the cheap Chinese audio video receivers, 4 satellite old C-band / KU-band satellite receivers, a crappy TV, and a security DVR. Now what do you suppose all this stuff has in common? Well, nothing. But, however, I am using this bottom receiver here. I just had these over the years and piled them up and got a what is it, a 950 to 1300 something megahertz audio and video transmitter and receiver set. And just so you know, there's yes, you can't transmit everywhere like those things tune. Maybe in some countries you can, but I wouldn't do that in the United States, especially around 1090. If you transmit anything around near 1090, that's the new ADS-B. I don't know what that stands for, but it's something to do with the aviation next gen aviation flight safety stuff. So I wouldn't transmit anywhere around 1090 megahertz. Just don't do it. The other thing is too, is if you are doing FPV or any kind of video and audio retransmission back, and you are doing it for business purposes, you can't use the amateur radio frequencies, period. The other thing is too, is I'm just going to feel really bad if, because I have a right to be there, or anybody else has a right to use 400 megahertz, 900, 1.2, 2.4, 5.8, at significantly more power than the unlicensed individual can. You know, I'm going to feel bad if it crashes, but that's, hey, Part 15 device, got to deal with it, we all do. Anyway, the asshole mode turned off. So what I did, this receiver and the transmitter transmits conveniently enough in the amateur 23 centimeter band, which is 1200 to 1300 megahertz, 1.24 to 1.3 gigahertz. Okay, on the transmitter that I just showed you, it'll transmit on 1240, which is illegal because that falls outside of the amateur band. Because on FM video, the modulation is right around 17 megahertz. So you're swinging up and down a little over 8.5 megahertz. So you're going above and below the amateur band limit. Don't do it. So I'm just transmitting on 1280. Anyway, what's so awesome about the C-band satellite receivers? No, these do not have it at 70 megahertz IF. For those that know a little bit of something, that's the newer ones. These ones don't. These old C-band and KU-band satellite receivers are regular FM receivers, plus some of them have the MPEG IQ decoding. Anyway, the IF is in the L-band, 950 to 1450. Now, each one falls on a different channel. Why, I'm not really sure. But this particular one, which I don't have a remote for, it just so happened that it worked. The satellite doesn't really matter. Just because the channel numbers are the same. Anyways, you see that's on KU, that's where I was able to get it. And you see here, well, maybe, kind of. So this is, you're not going to see it all that great, but this is the cheap Chinese AV receiver. It doesn't get any noise. And this one, I don't know how much better you can see it, but this is through the satellite receiver, through the component output or the composite output, not the video output, but just the regular baseband composite output. I'm going through the DVR for the pure and simple fact I can record. Cool. Anyway, I have another older potentiometer or voltage tuned satellite receiver instead of a digitized one. This one, obviously, for one reason or another, it just isn't working. I can receive the audio, but for one reason or another, it won't show the video. I don't know why. Kind of weird, I think. So that right there outside my window is the camera. Just a crappy little thing. And that's what it looks like. Obviously this is, you know, a minor HD picture on a phone, so you guys can look a lot better to you. It's about the same field of view. But it is kind of interesting to see the quality difference, isn't it? Versus a high definition camera versus a non-high definition camera. So anyway, to make this all work, if you want to know how, you don't need the security DVR. I just use that just for the pure and simple fact it does record. So anyways, this one's the bottom receiver. This is the antenna from the UHF Anywhere remotes from some of the other ones. This one is a little older receiver. It doesn't have it, and I don't care. This is all that's being used. Of course, it's a little 6-inch antenna, and from a 433 megahertz infrared / RF remote. And it works fine just for testing. And you see it's coming out, the component out, or composite out. I'm not really sure what comp out means because it has data and IPV next to it, and that's the same with, what's the other ones that got it? That one. So, I don't know. Anyway, all it is component out, feeds into the DVR. That gives me my one feed, and then just for testing, because when I was sitting there playing with it, trying to figure out really how to work it, the DVR would just say video loss. So obviously I can't see if the signal is coming in or how well or anything. So I just ran the RF cable from the modulator on the back of the satellite receiver to the TV, and just use TV channel 4 to control the receiver and just move it around. Like I said, this one I don't have the remote for, so it was really a pure guess. And this one is just an older Uniden UST 4400. Very basic functions. This one was left on satellite G5, and then I just went through the channels. I can easily select between C and KU. You see that it is no longer there, so we'll go to the TV. And there it is. And so we're just sitting here going through the channels. There's 23 or 24 channels on C-band. And I figured it would have at least got close, but because the transmitter is transmitting at 1280 megahertz, not at, I think it's 1290 is the next channel up. So it should have been coming in right here, but it's not. So the cheap Chinese transmitter is not transmitting on the correct frequency. It should be transmitting on 1250. As a matter of fact, if it was transmitting on the correct frequency, you'd be able to have two channels to transmit on the amateur 23 centimeter band. And so it just goes through there, and that's all I did, was I just scrolled through until I found it. Now, one thing I thought was interesting is the KU bands are not as separated, and I'm beginning to think that either they use some minor video compression, or what they did was that because it is the channels are closer spaced together, and also because the analog receiver or the analog transmitter is just transmitting a 17 megahertz wide video signal, you're just bleeding over through several channels. Anyway, that's all I got for now. When I actually do some other testing, I'll post it. Leave comments, questions if you care. Share. Thanks.